That's Nick.
And that's Joseph. And today we're here to talk about Straw, the 28th film directed by Tyler Perry, which Netflix is releasing June 6, 2025.
Y'all know Tyler Perry. We last reviewed Duplicity and the second part of Beauty and Black. What is Straw about? There is a pretty big spoiler, so if you don't want to hear it, turn this off. Okay. Single mother Janiyah endures a harrowing day of systemic failures, losing her job, home, and daughter. A desperate attempt to cash her paycheck spirals into a bank standoff. A twist reveals her daughter died earlier, and Janiyah's actions stem from a grief-induced psychosis.
Where is that synopsis from?
ChatGPT.
Wow, yeah, that just gives it all away right there. Okay. I also thought you could have called this Taraji and the Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day.
Oh, look.
Is that... Oh.
I wrote Straw as Tyler Perry's Terrible, Horrible, No Good, Very Bad Day meets One of Them Days.
Yeah, ain't nothing going on but the rent. Is that your pull quote?
No.
Okay.
What is your pull quote?
A trio of emotionally charged performances from Taraji P. Henson, Sherri Shepherd, and Teyana Taylor mark Straw as one of the most compelling films Tyler Perry has ever made. Even with a narrative that needed to hit the brakes well before it hurtles past a point of no return with its miserableism.
Mine. Tyler Perry's Straw features the usual barrage of poorly written dialogue and nonsensical plot points, along with a wholly unnecessary twist. But Taraji P. Henson and Sherri Shepherd deliver powerhouse performances worthy of critical acclaim.
Yeah, I was shocked watching this. I'm like, I'm considerably invested in this film.
Yeah, I cried many times. It felt very relatable.
Yes.
Taraji really does give a hell of a performance, which I'm not super surprised by.
No, not at all.
But Sherri Shepherd, I thought was really, really good.
See, I think people are sleeping on her because you never saw Gene of the Joneses.
No.
Where she plays Taylor Page's mama. And she's very good in that.
And I know I like Teyana Taylor. I will say she is a little too beautiful in this movie. She is done up.
So she is distractingly gorgeous, but in a way that every time she was on screen, my eyes are glued to her. What I think I leaned over and said to you at one point, like, somebody needs to write Teyana Taylor a neo-noir now. She needs to be a femme fatale. She is stunning. I mean, we already knew that, but completely wrong look for this role.
Well, it's not that she can't be a beautiful cop. It's that she's done up, like full beat, full wig install. I mean, it's just kind of crazy.
It's like, it's almost like, hey, Taraji, can you step out of the bank? Because I have a runway to get to. Like, she is, but that said, she does know how to act, and I think she does deliver.
So I gave the full story. Taraji P. Henson plays Janiyah, and we see that she's a single mom trying to take care of her daughter, who appears to be like 8 or 9. And we're told the daughter has some health issues. Taraji's having difficulty paying for her daughter's medicine. She's also having difficulty paying her rent. Her boss, played by Glynn Turman, who I really like. He's like a full-on villain in this movie.
It's hard seeing him be so vile.
Yeah. But she's just having the worst day ever. She ends up getting evicted. Her boss fires her after she tries to go take care of her daughter at school. We're told that, we see like CPS come and take the daughter away because she has bruises on her and they think that maybe she's not in a safe environment. But then, like I already spoiled, we realize towards the end that the daughter actually died the night before all of these incidents. So the stress of that really causes Taraji to go over the edge. But it's not just her fault. Her boss, who has fired her, doesn't want to give her her final paycheck. He's saying, well, since you're being fired, we can mail it to you. And she's like, run me my money right now. And as she's telling him this, 2 men break into the back office of the grocery store she works in and rob them at gunpoint. And Taraji's like, not today. Like, I need this money today. My daughter needs $40 for lunch. You are not taking my stuff. And Taraji ends up wrestling the gun from one of the...
one of the gunmen.
And shoots him. And then Glynn Turman's character, her boss, is antagonizing her like, you set this up, which reminded me of Set It Off, Vivica Fox's character.
Yeah, she takes the blame,
Where she takes the blame because she knew, like, peripherally the guy who robbed the bank. But Glynn Turman's telling the police, like, my employee knew them, she set it up. And Taraji loses it and shoots Glenn Turman. Walks across the street to the bank.
She grabs her check, which has blood all over it.
She doesn't take any of the money that's there. She just takes her check, $521, and she walks across the street to Benevolent, I think it's Benevolent Savings and Loan or something.
Trust and...
Or something. And they have closed, but Sherri Shepherd, the bank manager, recognizes her and lets her in. Taraji tries to cash her check. The bank teller won't let her cash it, saying because she doesn't have ID. Even though you know me, I cash my check every pay period. And Taraji loses it. She pulls out a gun and says, "Give me my money." And then she's carrying a backpack, like a clear backpack, the kind you take to work when they don't trust you. And they think they see a bomb in the bag. But we find out it's not a bomb. It's her dead daughter's science project. But it looks like a bomb, which is kind of ridiculous.
That isn't a ridiculous element.
Like what? Because they never explain what the science project was that fully looks like a bomb and has like something that's lighting up and ticking. But
well, considering the circumstances, it makes sense that the women at the bank would think that.
Of course.
But why?
So of course they set off the silent alarm. They get a call. They're told that there is someone robbing the bank and they have a gun and a bomb. Teyana Taylor is one of the officers who shows up. And initially Detective Raymond.
Detective K. Raymond.
She is doing like the negotiating.
The most beautiful officer in the world.
Which of course, I was also thinking I was thinking of a lot of movies like Dog Day Afternoon.
Yes, of course. Well, you didn't see Breaking with John Boyega.
No.
Which is, I believe, based on a true story in a similar circumstance, a veteran that kind of reaches a breaking point and goes and holds up a bank, and he wants I think the original title was like 492 or something, like the amount of money that's owed him.
To him.
And then a kind of similar situation.
What's the movie with Michael Douglas?
Falling Down.
I thought of that. Okay.
Pursuit of Happiness with Will Smith, I thought a bit too.
But a big plot point is that before all of this happened, there was an incident of road rage where some guy got mad that Taraji kind of cut him off. And he like rams into her car, which causes her to spin out of control. And then we find out he's a cop. And he is being insane. Yes. He tells her, I had to write it down because this was too much. He tells Taraji in front of the other cop, "I'm going to find a legal way to blow your brains out." And then tells the cop, "Make her suffer."
Yeah.
Which of course is extremely upsetting. So now that Taraji's in the bank and now everyone thinks she's robbing it, even though she's saying, "I'm not robbing the bank, I was just trying to cash my check." She sees on the news that one of the cops outside is that man. So a big plot point is that she's very afraid to leave the bank because she thinks this man's going to kill her.
And then her daughter, who at this point in the film you still think is alive, will be an orphan.
And I do think that was a pretty clever plot point that perhaps a better writer could have really showcased. I think Taraji is able to express it in a way that I felt, but...
Yes, I get that. I think Tyler should have let someone else do a rewrite and also direct, because I think these women they're just doing their thing, like with the material, and it works.
I think the actors in this film who are maybe a little more seasoned do a better job. So the three we already named. Sinbad is in the film, yes, which we'll get back to. I think he does a good job. Glenn Turman obviously can act. Even like
Rockmond Dunbar.
Dunbar is the chief of police. I think he does a good job. But I think they're just on autopilot, like they're doing their own thing. Mm-hmm. But Sherri Shepherd as the bank manager is really sort of empathetic towards Taraji. So the bulk of the film is Sherri trying to help Taraji get through this with the help of Teyana Taylor as a negotiator.
You know what's so hard about Nicole, the Sherri Shepherd role, is being a good person is hard to convey effectively without seeming hokey.
Sure.
Because I think somebody could have approached that role and it would have completely collapsed.
But of course the FBI show up, they try to take over, this brutish man comes in and derails all the negotiations. But ultimately Taraji agrees that if you can prove to me that crazy ass cop who threatened to kill me is not going to be outside when I leave, I'll leave. And so they say, okay, Teyana organizes that. Taraji walks out of the bank, and in a really sweet move, Sherri Shepherd, who had already had the chance to like escape the bank, she stays and tells Taraji she'll walk with her. So they both walk out, and Teyana is the one who handcuffs Taraji.
And she does that to ensure, to better the chances that Taraji won't be shot and killed, as very easily could happen in this scenario. Which, like that film, that Nate Parker film, American Skin. Remember?
Yeah.
And of course, that's how that ends.
And actually, before Taraji leaves the bank, she imagines, which as the audience, we don't know, she's imagining that she's going to be shot and killed. So we see Taraji get shot and killed, and I was shocked.
Yeah, so I'm like, God, Tyler Perry's really...
But then we realize it's just her imagining it. Another thing I didn't mention is one of the bank tellers, there are two bank tellers also being held hostage. One of them goes on like YouTube Live and is recording everything. So like the entire community is witnessing. And I think the best or strongest, like if Taraji gets any award recognition, I feel like this should be the clip they show, which is Taraji on the phone with Teyana while the community is witnessing her basically tell her story. I thought that was probably the best scene in the film.
Again, the sentiment, the story itself, I think is really strong, but Tyler Perry, in too many instances, uses a hammer when a scalpel, I think, would need to be conveyed in some key moments.
But I was going to say that because of the live broadcast inside the bank, from within the bank, a crowd forms outside the bank. So there are all these people there supporting Taraji's character, saying free Janiyah. Which is, I did think that was a nice touch to the story.
I did, although at the same time, I'm like, well, technically she's still free, but I think that's what's going to be.
Well, she won't be for long.
You guys need to come back in a couple hours.
I'm just going to go through my notes. Immediately, as it started, you said that the camera seems to be saying at every angle, squalor.
I almost expected that Justin Morrow was the DP who's worked several times with Tyler Perry. But with the half-eaten ramen on the table and there are a couple other like key...
Her objects. Raggedy car. Just everything about her life is just downtrodden.
I almost expected, how Netflix subtitles are, that squalor would have been in the subtitle.
Yeah. But... another really powerful moment is because Taraji gets a phone call saying there's something up with your daughter at school, which of course is not real because her daughter has already died, but she's imagining it. And she tells her boss, can I leave? And the boss is screaming at her, no. But he ultimately lets her leave for 30 minutes. And then she gets into all this trouble on the way. And then when she gets home, she sees that she's been evicted. One of them days style, where all her stuff is on the street and it's pouring rain.
It's a downpour that is...
And Taraji starts screaming, which is probably going to be our background. And I just thought, like, man, what a way to start. It really, like you said, he uses a sledgehammer when he should be using a scalpel. But Taraji does a fine job.
Case in point with the sledgehammer is the grocery store and how the customers are situated and what's going on.
Oh, I wrote this grocery store is a horror movie.
Yes, it is. Yes.
Yeah, it was kind of silly.
There's only one lane open. There's only one cashier, no self-checkout. And the lines are to the back of the store, literally, and everybody is mad.
Well, I'm assuming Tyler's trying to show like a grocery store in the hood. And because, of course, the first customer Taraji's character gets is trying to use their EBT card. WIC, but then they're making purchases that don't qualify.
Right.
And the woman cusses her out, and then the man who's with her throws like a bottle at Taraji.
Yes.
Glenn Turman, he might be villain of the year.
Oh, he's wretched.
He's so unreasonable.
You could make a case that that's caricature, but then I've worked for some people in retail that seem about like that.
Again, I think we could vote Teyana Taylor as the world's most beautiful cop.
Oh my God, ravishing!
Yeah.
She's stunning. It's kind of laughable. Again, her performance is pretty damn good, but I don't know.
When Taraji goes to the school and the principal's there, or a teacher's there and the CPS person, we find out that from the CPS person that, well, your daughter's teacher and the principal said that your daughter comes to school hungry and she stinks. And the look Taraji gives that teacher was pretty funny.
Which is...
But then as she's explaining it, I felt emotional. Like, this woman's trying and she's trying to explain, like, my gas got cut off. I don't have hot water. My daughter gets cold. Like, I try to bathe her, but I can't. It's just like everything snowballs.
I agree, and I think that is a powerful scene, which is why I really dislike the twist that the daughter's dead, because it negates all of that in a way.
Yeah.
Like, because then, of course, Tyler Perry, we go through each scene where the daughter was involved, or her being alive was involved, so we can see how, in reality, those scenes played out. And you get her going to see the principal, and that's it. I don't know. It just robbed it of some of its poignancy.
So getting to Tyler Perry's attention to detail, first, when Taraji gets to the bank the second time, because she had already been in there trying to withdraw money, and Sherri Shepherd explained, like, well, it's not letting you withdraw money because if you go below the limit, your account will be closed. So when she comes back the second time, which leads to the whole situation, it's 4 o'clock. Mm-hmm. It's after 4 o'clock. So the security guard is saying, I'm sorry, it's after 4, the bank is closed. But Sherri Shepherd says, oh no, let her in, because she recognizes her. So when Taraji walks in, she's the only person in line. Uh-huh. But then after the burglary starts, or the robbery, supposed robbery, how many people are in line?
3. There's a couple, the old woman that stays almost till the end of the
And the taller guy.
And the taller guy, yeah.
So where did these additional 3 customers come from if it was already after close, the doors were locked, and the manager had to let Taraji in?
Right. But I was laughing because the tall man, Sherri Shepherd's trying to discreetly get the customers in line out, and she's trying to be like, I think you need to leave. And he gets so loud.
He gets loud and angry, and it's like, fool, we're being robbed.
She's like, shh.
Another inconsistency is when the crowd shows up chanting free Janiyah. Is that her name? Am I saying it incorrectly? Mm-hmm. It's nighttime outside, but in the bank, we can see that there's sunlight coming through the windows.
Which is just, we're also in the middle of She the People, and there are some day for night problems in that as well. But
yeah, he seems to have a hard time with knowing what time of day it is.
Okay, so I had texted you a couple days ago knowing we were going to watch this, and I was like, straw shot in 4 days, which is 3 days less than Acrimony, his last outing with Taraji. And I was kind of dreading watching this. So I don't know. I'm quite surprised at how good it is despite a number of factors.
I wonder if it aided, because the nature of the story is like a pressure cooker, limited time. And I wonder if...
I think multiple takes would probably work against it. Maybe.
Yeah. So in this instance, I think the short shoot probably helped with conjuring some of the emotion we see.
But then, Taraji's going balls to the wall then in all of these scenes. I mean, it isn't... This might be it might be her best performance ever. I mean, she's excellent.
I was very, very impressed. So I worked in a bank for almost 4 years. And I've been robbed twice. Mm-hmm. And, we get trained on... And this also was 25 years ago. But I was so confused because when Taraji, pulls out the gun and says, cash my check, the bank teller panics, and then they start grabbing all the money out of both of their tills.
Mm-hmm. She didn't ask for that.
And Taraji keeps saying, why are you doing this? I just want my $521, which made the situation worse. Mm-hmm. And I just kept thinking, I feel like we were always instructed to do what they asked.
Yeah, listen to that.
Why did you throw her $50,000? She just wanted $521, and she probably just would have walked out.
And of course, they aren't cashing it because she doesn't have her ID because the ID has been stolen. But, also, I kind of wanted somebody to be like, just go stick it in the ATM or use the app.
Well, that too, but she needed her funds immediately.
Right.
I think the whole idea of them thinking she has a bomb, it does work well, except that as the audience, we didn't see her fabricate a bomb. And then once you learn that it's a science project, I really hated that we don't learn what the hell was her daughter making.
Well, here's the other thing. Once Stockholm Syndrome starts setting in and everybody except for the one teller, the Tessa, that is kind of on her side, nobody wants to be like, girl, what's in the backpack? Because they've listened to her story, they've listened to what happened to her today, and nowhere in it is I constructed a bomb or had time to do that. So why no one was clarifying?
I do think a sweet moment is, so in the opening of the film, Taraji has no money. She's leaving her apartment, being yelled at by the landlord that, she's going to be evicted. But Sinbad, this homeless man, is out front.
Benny.
And she hands him a little, whatever she has, $1. And of course the landlord's like, oh, you can give this homeless man money, but you can't run me my rent.
Not the same thing.
So then later on, when the crowd forms, Sinbad is there. And the news crews interview him, and he says like she's a good person, that she always helped me, like basically like feeding the homeless. I will say it. So Taraji asks Sherri to raise her daughter. Like, once I go to jail, can you take care of her like foster care? And then once I get out, I can get her back.
Well, and this happens after a moment where Taraji says, I don't have anyone. And Sherri Shepherd goes, you have me.
Yeah.
And then she asks.
And then Sherri Shepherd says, I'll do it. I will. And of course I was like, wow. But then we learn later that Sherri had been told by like the negotiator that Taraji's daughter was dead. So then it's kind of funny, like, oh, she agreed to take care of a dead kid. But of course I would have said it too, because this woman's volatile and in need.
Yes. But again, the twist kind of robs all those moments of the feeling that you had watching them, which I don't know. Okay,
so what flubs the situation is, first, when the FBI shows up, they're like, we're going to take over, even though the local cops and Teyana Taylor's character has made a lot of headway. And then one of the tellers, the younger of the two, I think we're told, they look the same age to me, but there's one teller who's far less sympathetic. And being kind of a brat. She goes to a window and scribbles, it's not a bomb. Because at a point they learn, like, it's not a bomb, it's a science project. And then Sherri Shepherd had explained, like, you should probably pretend it's a bomb, because if they know it's not, they're going to rush in here because there's no danger. But it's too late because that teller told on her. So that sort of causes the situation to escalate.
Well, I mean, we're told that 12 hours have passed since she's been in there. So, it's about time.
Okay, I did think where we could have used the scalpel is the whole situation with Taraji's character being afraid of that road rage cop.
Yes.
Because the FBI is saying, we're not going to prove anything to her. We're not going to find this cop. We're just going to go in there and get her. But Teyana insists they do, and she does her own investigating and figures out who that cop is, gets him removed. Taraji wants proof. Teyana has a picture. But when Teyana approaches that road rage cop, she punches him. That seemed a little crazy.
Well,
Teyana's a little too invested in this. Like, there's going to be disciplinary action against her.
There will be, most likely, but she's invested because she grew up in similar circumstances. So
yes.
So that adds some emotional immediacy to her character. But that's like all those 80s cop movies. They were out of pocket like that all the time. So.
Sure. But overall, I have to say, I cried like 3 times. I was quite moved.
The emotionality of it is very well balanced, but I credit that to these 3 women.
Yeah.
I like the title as well, because I think it does have a couple meanings. Clearly, like the last straw, the straw that broke the camel's back. But also, it reminds me of my favorite, one of my favorite, Basil Dearden films, Woman of Straw, which you watched with me years ago with Gina Lollobrigida, and that A Woman of Straw is easy to burn. Like, she's... Taraji's playing a woman that's completely vulnerable and invisible, right? And I think that's kind of the power of what Mr. Perry's latest film is. And based on how he handles erotic dramas or erotic thrillers, I think that he should stick to things more along the lines of this, because he clearly is good at channeling the human condition in ways that are effective, and I think that's proven here. But
what would you give Straw?
After all that, 2.5 is what I'm giving it.
I can't ignore, the sort of issues he always has in his films, but off of the strength of the 3 main performances, I would give it 2.5 out of 5, which I think is really good for a Tyler Perry movie.
Exactly, because usually we're at about a 0.5 or a 1.
Yeah. Anything else?
No.
Join us on Patreon and listen to our podcast. Bye.